Hello everyone. We want to welcome you to our inaugural segment of Around the Clock. We're here at the new WACA-TV studio on Butterfield Drive in Ashland. And with me today is my special guest host, Yolanda Greaves, chairperson of the Ashland Selectmen. Welcome, Yolanda.
Thank you very much for having me, Mark. I appreciate being here for the inaugural session of Around the Clock.
Well, we're very excited. Let's sort of go through what we have on tap for our viewers. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the town government and around town. That's our mantra here for Around the Clock, is to help the citizens of Ashland get the straight, skinny on what's going on, unbiased, the facts.
The facts.
And then we're going to have what we call our new personnel profiles, and we're fortunate enough to have our new town manager, Tony Schiavi, joining us today. Another segment that we'll be doing routinely here on Around the Clock is a committee update. So as we know, there are a lot of committees around town made up of great volunteers from the folks in Ashland. We have an exciting tour at the Ashland Water Treatment Plant today. We're going to be talking to the folks that run that plant. And a little step away from the around the town government talk and services talk, we're going to have a special guest, Patty O'Neill, America's hero, our own Ashland superstar.
Look forward to getting to talk to her and see how it went for her.
Excellent, excellent. And we're going to wrap up. We'll have a sports segment, a little news, some public service information. As a matter of fact, our good pals Joe Magnani and Billy Gass are going to come on and remind folks about Ashland Day.
Yeah.
So we're going to probably take a little commercial break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Around the Clock. Welcome back to Around the Clock. Yolanda Greaves, chair of the Ashland Selectmen, is my guest host. And as I had mentioned when we were doing the introduction to the show, Yolanda, our goal is to give the viewers a first-hand news about what is going on around Ashland that's unbiased and informative. So we got a great source of information for the town. But because this show is for the folks at home, we want to give them the opportunity to send in their questions. And of course, this is our first show, so I'm going to ask you some questions instead of just the folks at home. But if you're interested in sending in a question to be answered by the folks that are guests at the show, we hope to have Yolanda back as often as possible, get information about the town. You can get us on email at ashlandaroundtheclock@gmail.com. We talked a little bit about the segments that we're going to have in the show. And if you're interested in a segment, us putting together a segment, we're more than willing to listen to your ideas and give it a shot here. So let's sort of take off and see how we go here.
Sounds good. There's certainly a lot of great things going on in Ashland that we can talk about. And certainly if people want to give us input, I think it'd be a great thing to do.
Awesome. And we're very excited to be here at the brand new WACA cable television setup here in Ashland. If you don't know, we've moved from the middle school building up over on
Butterfield Drive.
To Butterfield Drive here. So we're excited to have the opportunity to use the new equipment in the new studio, and we invite anyone to come on down. The folks there are happy to give you a little tour, and it's very exciting here. So as our guest host, why don't you tell us how it's going as chair of the Selectmen?
Well, it's actually been a very good summer. I was nominated and voted to chair as of June after the May elections. And I can just say we've had an exciting summer. Tony Schiavi, our new town manager, who we'll be bringing in later, as we said, has been a great addition to the town. He's also brought in Mike Herbert, our assistant town manager. Things are really starting to turn around for the town on Friday. And then officially last night, we got introduced to our new police chief, Craig Davis, and hopefully he'll be starting probably by the beginning of October. So things are really looking up. Ashland is such a great town, and there's so much good going on here. We had a very positive meeting last night. As you know, last night was one of the Board of Selectmen meetings on Wednesday, the 11th of September. And things are really moving forward. We've appointed someone to the ZBA. Phil Jack got appointed as a full-time person on the ZBA. We also have 2 associate positions that are open, and we had some people come and speak to us last night who are interested in that, and we'll be doing more appointments at our September 25th meeting. We are looking at creating our Municipal Improvement Committee, and some people call that the Capital Committee. So that is going to be working with Tony Schiavi, our town manager. Again, we're looking for about 5 people. We had some of those come and speak with us last night. Some people couldn't make it, so hopefully they'll come to our September 25th meeting, or we'll get to speak to them beforehand so we can make that appointment and move that committee forward as well.
There seems to be a significant movement or a lot of energy to get more folks to volunteer and get involved. And you know, from my perspective, it's a good time to get involved in Ashland. We have a new town manager, some new town staff. There's a very clear, definitive sort of guideline on where Tony wants to take the town. I know he's going to talk to us a little bit about that when he comes on later on the show,
Yeah.
but how do folks get involved if they want to get involved?
Well, fortunately, there's so many different volunteer organizations, and there's different committees involved that are going on here in Ashland. The best way to find out all of them is on our website. It is under revamp, so it might be a little bit difficult to find them, but within the next couple of weeks, all the committees that are out there will be listed, and vacancies. We're always looking for new blood. We have some great volunteers, but unfortunately, as with most organizations, if you're relying just on volunteers, sometimes they're there for 2 or 3 years or 4 years or 6 years. They start getting a little tired, and we don't want things to fall to the wayside. We want new people to come in. So if there's anything that you're interested in, that anyone's interested in regards to volunteering, we have a town forest committee, we have conservation, we have youth and family services, and there's a number of other ones. I don't have the list in front of me, unfortunately, but many of them are on the website, or you can call Town Hall and find out what those committees are. We also have a lot just going on in town right now where we want people's input. Mm-hmm. We have a session next Tuesday, September 17th. We have a lot of open space here in Ashland, and some of it has been purchased with conservation money, CPA money, and we just want input from people to say, what do you see? What do you vision for Ashland? What do you want done with open space? Come and tell us what you think. So that session is September 17th at the Ashland High School Theater at 7 o'clock. There'll be presentations by various committees, CPA, they're the people who, the money that we bring in for CPA funds, they help organize that and help determine where some of that goes. We're going to have Dave Barrett from our Field Studies group to give us an update where we are with fields. We've done some great building of fields over the last number of years, but we want to make sure that we have what we need not only for the next 10 years, but for the next 30 or 50 years. Mm-hmm. We also are asking the Land Stewardship Committee. Those are the people who volunteer a lot of time and have turned Warren Woods, what you see from overgrown stone walls, into now you drive by on Elliott and Chestnut Street and you can see the fields. They've done some great things with clearing up the paths and trails there. So those are some of the presentations that are happening. But we really want to hear from a large majority of people from Ashland as to what they want to see in open space and what they want to see for their town. That's another committee that has just started, is the Comprehensive Plan Committee. And we will also be reaching out, I'm also a member of that, to people to find out, what do you foresee for Ashland? There'll be a piece partly with the Board of Selectmen looking at the vision. You know, what do we want Ashland to be? Ashland's a great town, but we want to define it a little bit better and make sure that we're moving forward and we move forward with the interest and the input from the community. Mm-hmm.
Later on in the show, Graham Ruggie is going to join us. Graham's the vice chair of the Ashland Redevelopment Association, and they're looking at doing some work in the downtown area. They have a meeting coming up.
They have a session
right?
coming up as well on September 23rd, also at the Ashland High School, but it'll be in the library. And theirs is a two-parter. They start at 6:30, and from 6:30 to 8, they're going to look for feedback from people on the downtown area of Ashland and the redevelopment of that, and making sure it's a downtown that we want it to be, and then also looking at Route 126 and what people foresee there. Route 126 is a little challenging because it's a state road. So we don't own it, so we have to do certain work and then get the state to hopefully finish up the rest of it and work with us in a real partnership to create the business atmosphere that we want on 126.
And they're looking to have a warrant for the town meeting, right?
Yes, so I think it's going to be sponsored by the Ashland Redevelopment Authority. I don't have all the details, but I know there's a portion of engineering that's been done, and I'm sure Graham will take you through more of this a little bit later. But we have done a certain percentage. We're looking for funding to do up to 25%, and if we as a town do up to the 25%, then the state will take us from that 25% to the 100%. To see what we can get done on Route 126, which is the real area of growth for business for Ashland, and we've all talked about economic growth being important.
There's quite a bit of activity at the Planning Board and ZBA about 126 with the proposed new Dunkin' Donuts. It looks like the Dairy Queen
is looking to move there.
Over there, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. People have said, when I've said it to people, what do you mean Dairy Queen is going to move from downtown? But as a business owner, he's looking at what he can do to be open all year round, which I think would be a plus for anybody. So he's looking to move to 126 to a bigger size piece of property, which is understandable because he really can't expand where he is. But I'm sure someone else would jump right into that spot. So.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So how's it going for you? I have to ask you some special guest questions. So we have this hard-hitting journalism here. But you were on the Board of Selectmen last year. You've got a storied history as a member of the school committee, several years as chair also there.
Actually, only 1 year as chair. It might have seemed longer, but I was vice chair. I mean, I was a member for a number of years, and then I was vice chair for a year, and then chair for a year, and I then finished my term on the school committee as chair. So when I did not run for re-election, it was a tough decision, but I have to say when I didn't run, it was because there were many people running, and you were one of them. And then I took probably about 5 years off from real town politics. I'd go to town meeting. And then I was asked by many people to step back into things. And a year ago, May, I stepped onto the Board of Selectmen. And I actually, even with everything that's been going on, I've actually enjoyed it. It's been a good challenge, and I feel good to be able to give back to the town and hope that what I do has been helpful.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that because part of the concept for this show was to be able to have these types of discussions, talk about committees and different things that are going on around town, from committee work to Ashland Day to special guest Patty O'Neill, the hero. Because I think people have, they sort of only have one input or a couple inputs. They read the Metro West Daily News, or they get some information second or third hand. It isn't always reflective of what's really going on in town. So we're hoping that these types of discussions on Around the Clock will actually help folks get a better picture.
And I think that's important. Unfortunately, sometimes what happened is someone will say something and someone will hear it, but they might not hear all of it, and it gets either misconstrued or relayed in a way that's not the real information. And I think it's great that you've started Around the Clock. And I'll give as much input as many times as I can, because I think it is important to get the real information out and give people, the facts about what's going on in our town. Because we do have a great town, and we want to make sure that people get everything and they get the real story about what's going on.
And that's, and I'll reiterate, that's sort of the Ask the Clock segment that we'll be doing
that'd be great.
For the shows. So once again, if people have a question for the show or our guests, because we'll always have folks on from town government, Around the Clock ashlandaroundtheclock@gmail.com. So send your questions in, and we're happy to ask them on air and give you the straight skinny.
There you go.
All right, so you're chair now.
Yep.
You've got a crazy band of select folks around you. How you doing keeping us all in line?
Well, it's very interesting. There have been, I would have to say, there was one meeting in particular where I was sitting and we had something happen at the meeting, and I just felt the heat rise on the left side of the table. If you haven't watched one of our selectmen meetings, we sit at a table that's a V, and I sit at one side, and it just so happens, because of how the table is set up, the other 4 members of the committee are down the other side. And it's been great. Everyone has their own personality, everyone has their own passion, and everyone has their way of doing things. And I think as a board, we're starting to work together And that's all that I could hope for, is that as a board we can make things move forward and find the positive things and just bring them forward for the town.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, once again, we have our guest host, Yolanda Greaves, Chair of the Ashland Board of Selectmen. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to bring back our guest, Town Manager, Tony Schiavi. Stay tuned. All right, Yolanda, so we're getting ready for our new employee profile segment of Around the Clock. And we have the #1 new employee with us today, don't we?
That's right. We're going to have our new town manager, Anthony Schiavi, who is coming on board. It was great to get him into town. He has been in the area. He's grown up in the area, has been here almost all of his life. He still has family in the area. And as of now, he is a proud resident of Ashland, now that he's moved up here and he has a home here. He had spent 30 years in the military, with over 20 of those years actually in Massachusetts, so he hasn't been very far, even though he spent that time in the military. When I was talking to him before we were going to bring him in, I just asked him a couple things. He had owned 2 businesses, contracting businesses, while in the military, and he enjoys doing home improvement.
Welcome, Tony. We're glad to have you here, not only in our show, but in Ashland.
Well, great. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and in Ashland.
And now that I know you do home improvement, I'll get the lists out from the missus, and then we can work on a couple.
It didn't take too long, and I had already started sort of remodeling already. So, but it's really I like to enjoy to do it. It's a good stress reliever.
So, speaking of stress, you've sort of hit the ground running here in Ashland. How's the first, May, right? You came aboard officially in May?
I came on in March, and then full-time in June. It's been great. We have a wonderful staff. There's certainly a lot to do in town to keep our services to where they need to be for our residents, and they work really hard at it. And I think that that's one of those things we want to continue to promote in our government here locally, is just what a great staff we have and how open we are to listening to folks and continuing to better ourselves every day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What have been some of the challenges or some of the things that you saw coming in that you think you'll be addressing first?
Well, there's a couple of different ones. I think first and foremost, just within our own, building, is just, developing a human resource program. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times. I think that's really important for our employees to have that system. And, in today's environment, that's really important. So, that's, sort of from an administration standpoint. In terms of other things, we've talked a lot about, needs for public safety building, those type of things. And that's going to be another major part of what we're going to be looking at, as well as continuing to look at improvements to our infrastructure around town in a variety of ways. Water and sewer are one of those, and if folks have been watching some of the Selectmen's meetings, I think they've gotten a sort of a taste of where we're going with those type of things that'll benefit the overall community, to include our businesses and our residents both.
Well, that's interesting. We actually have Jeff Fournier, the plant manager from the water treatment plant, on a little later in the show today.
Yeah, and water is something that's always on everybody's mind. It doesn't really matter where you live, and even coming from the Cape, where we're always concerned about water and conserving our resources, and Ashland is no different. So I think that's an area that that we'll look to address to ensure that we continue to maintain our water systems, and also our water as a conservation, resource that is very important. And I think that's going to be one of those areas too that we'll continue to work on and educate folks and promote ways to conserve our environment and things that are important to us.
Yeah, conservation is a big issue. We're still, even though we're now the middle of September, as we found out at our meeting last night, we do still have to watch what our reservoir is doing, and we might move back into a stage 1 or stage 2 because the water levels still aren't where they need to be. And I think conservation is what's going to be helping us, because you can't always rely on the rain.
That's correct, yeah, exactly.
And you had another big announcement last night with some new personnel.
We did. Well, last Friday I put the initial announcement out that we hired Deputy Chief of Police from Framingham, Craig Davis, to be our next police chief, and I presented that appointment to the board just last evening, and thank you for your support and that effort. It was about a 4.5-month process. We kept everything pretty much right on timeline, which our consultant BadgeQuest did a wonderful job with, and I was very pleased with their product and their services that they provide to help us as a community get really a top-notch law enforcement professional and an administrator in as our next police chief. So hopefully we'll see him in an Ashland police uniform here in just a few weeks.
Excellent, excellent. And actually you have quite a few new staff members.
We do have some, and some move from one position to other. So not that long ago, I mean, for instance, Dave Mnuchin, who was our town planner, is now our town DPW director. That's a great, sort of segue for him in taking his planning skills over to the DPW. We brought in Michael Herbert as our assistant town manager. He is hitting the ground at warp speed already, doing great work. He's got a great analytical mind. He's out building partnerships both within our staff and outside of our staff, which again is something that we're promoting heavily in our administration, if you want to call it that, to really reach out and make sure we're taking advantage of all the opportunities to collaborate and coordinate and work together in a variety of different venues. So he's new as well.
And then our town planner is new to
Nat
backfill
Strasburg.
for Dave Mnuchin. Yeah.
He is, and Nat's doing a great job. We pulled him actually from out of state. I mean, he came from, I believe, had quite a bit of his early experience in the state of Texas, and is here doing a great job already as our town planner.
Yeah, and he's great to work with, having just been appointed to the comprehensive committee, comprehensive plan. He's been really good to work with on that, and
Great.
I think it's just a really nice addition to the town.
Sure.
So along with the more experienced folks that have been in the town hall, you have quite a crew now. What's on tap for maybe technology in the town hall?
Well, technology is something that I'm very much a promoter of, and it's especially important when you don't necessarily have a lot of depth. That technology can provide certain benefits that help promote efficiencies in how we do things. People are obviously a lot more technologically advanced today in how they either get information or want to put forth information. So we're going to look at revamping our town website to make it more easily understood and be able to find information easily, but also to be able to use it to apply for things, whether it's posting meeting notices and agendas to perhaps other types of interactive links that can be on that particular website is one of the big benefits. So we've just started and was selected for a grant for a performance improvement program or performance measurement. We're starting with DPW and the police department. I think one of our efforts right here at the beginning is to look across all of the town, starting with those two departments, to look at what are ways that we can gain efficiencies in how we do our jobs every day. It helps to not just conserve resources, but allows us to then take perhaps some of the other capability and spread it out to maybe address things that we're not able to address right now. And I think that's another area that Michael Herbert's very strong in. Did a lot of work with the Collins Center out of UMass and is very well connected into that community. We should be starting that effort in January.
Great.
Right, and certainly technology and the town website and things like that are things that you hear in the community. People want to see updated and want to see change. So to know that it's being looked at and going to get updated, I think, is a positive thing.
Right, and I think, and then following on to that, we'll be looking at Facebook and perhaps Twitter as, one of the things, and we see it right now with a lot of our road construction projects out there. One of the, I think the biggest things that people, they want the information, right? So that we, I'm very much a public affairs type person from my background that, as we have things coming up, we want to make sure we have a process to go through to ensure that we're informing our citizens and others that just travel through our town what may be going on so they can plan for those type of activities. And certainly can use the website for that, but obviously Facebook and Twitter is another way to reach a lot of folks today that depend on that type of technology for receiving important information. So we're gonna look at that. There's also a program called where you end up being able to connect and you can report potholes from your smartphone and those perhaps street light outages. We can go there as well, because I think those are things that will help folks to put that information and get it to us.
Yeah. The more interaction, I think, in and out of town hall and within the community, the better.
Sure. And I know we've had some discussion at the liaison committee about querying town folk if they'd like to give us their email address, so we'll be able to do email blasts out to the general citizens, similar to how it works in the school system.
Right. The school department has a very good setup in that you can go to their website and you can ask to opt into any of the schools, the different schools' email lists, so that when they send out their announcements or if there's flyers, so I think it's something we think might be a good thing for the town to look at as well, so people can come to our website and opt into emails, and then It might not be on a regular basis, but at least if there's some information to send out to them, we already have their email address and their LinkedIn, and they're ready to get something.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can use text alerts for something like that as well.
Right.
If folks want to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, we've sort of talked about yourself, the folks in the town hall, and the new police chief. Any exciting activities over at the firehouse?
Well, we're obviously engaged with our fire. We have a great fire department, good emergency response. They provide a very important function for the community. I think, as we look down the road, facility-wise, I think there's a need there to take a look at the facility that they're in as they continue to provide important services for the town. We've looked at some regionalization opportunities with the town of Hopkinton, but that's in the very early stages at this point. But they've been very active. I think, coming from the Cape, most of the stuff, we didn't see structure fires. I was really kind of surprised when I first got here, the number of structure fires I saw early on. That's an area that we really depend on our fire department for, but also to remind our homeowners about safety, smoke detectors, those type of systems, and just education about, fire safety. I think's important to make sure that we keep everyone safe.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was interesting, though. We hadn't had many structure fires, and then within the last year or 18 months, the number of structure fires did increase.
Right.
So it really ebbs and flows.
Right.
And it's interesting, when there aren't a lot of structure fires, people still rely on the fire for their EMT services. But unless there's a lot of structure fires, fire sometimes sort of gets put in the back of your mind. And,
right.
and there really are insurance for the community to make sure that if something like that does happen, it gets taken care of swiftly and well.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I've obviously visited the fire department, and they have a great equipment out there. One of the things that it's important for folks to realize, in today's fire world, they are very, very highly trained. They're constantly going through training. Just the other day, the tech rescue team was up at the laborers camp, doing a joint exercise, if you will, for training for folks that do those technical type rescues. So our firefighters, men and women, are very highly trained, very highly experienced, and that's a benefit to our community to have those type of folks in the training that they have to really address any type of safety issues, from house fires to car accidents to perhaps some technical type rescues if somebody was stuck in a confined space, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And training is important. I think people in all walks of life realize that things are changing so much that training is very important.
Right.
And to know that our fire, and I know our police do as well, get updated training all the time, because techniques change, the equipment that you're using is changing, so the training is important.
Right, and technology starts at both police and fire.
Right.
Technology plays an important role in both of those public safety areas.
Yeah.
And there's quite a bit of activity going around to get off the training bit on our roads right now.
Yeah.
There is a lot. That's part of that whole infrastructure thing that I was mentioning earlier. We've put forth a very aggressive program to address. We have a lot of traffic and things that come through our town, and it's important to make sure we maintain our roadways in good, serviceable condition for our motorists, for folks that are biking or walking. So right now we have things going on along Route 135 to mill and overlay a section of road there that takes quite a bit of a beating from traffic. And so that's part of that, as we stand up what we've talked about, our Municipal Improvement Planning Committee, is to really roll in all of those type of things so that we develop a near, mid, and a long-term plan for addressing roads, infrastructure, including things under the ground like water and sewer, as well as just our building needs. And really we need to include maintenance into that, because the buildings we have, the better that we maintain them, the longer they last, because you can't just be replacing buildings because you're not taking care of them.
Right, and in Ashland, we've done a very good job at maintaining and updating our buildings. If you look at our Pitaway School that's still being used, it's from early 1900s, and even the Mendez School and part of the middle school, they're older buildings that we just maintain. And
we're certainly very adept at using what we have to
Yes.
the best of its
And you need
ability.
to, right,
Right.
And you need to. And we have a new public facilities director that just came on board, Eric Heidemann. So he brings a lot of that sort of strategic planning on how you build a capital plan like that, and we'll be, I'm sure, making him a critical part of that Municipal Improvement Planning Committee once that group has been established by the Board of Selectmen.
So you've built a new team here now with several new additions, and you're coming up on your first town meeting. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, Actually, yeah. I mean, I had my first one in May. It was baptism by fire a little bit, and I still thank Jim.
First one that you own.
Yeah,
Right.
right. I thank Jim Purcell a lot because he did a lot of work to prep for the town meeting in May and the budget. Even though he was sitting to my right, I mean, he really did a great job at that. A good service for the town, and we still chat frequently. But yeah, so town meeting in the fall coming up. We have November 19th is our fall meeting. Last night we just closed out the period for folks to file their notice of intent for warrant articles. We have a number of them. And so I'm a process type person, and so as we start to move forward, it's going to be important, I've told the team this, that we develop a process where we set milestones, we set dates for when we want to accomplish certain milestones leading up to a particular event, say like the November town meeting, because there's a lot of work to do, not just internal, but we have to give briefings to the Board of Selectmen, we need to get votes from the Finance Committee on the recommendations they need to make, and so I think as we plan that out, it makes things much more predictable. We know what those timelines are, and I think will be a good product. And what we're trying to do, I think, moving forward is providing folks a very transparent process, one that's easily understood, making the data available before they walk into the town meeting floor. So as you look towards May, our goal will be to get a lot of that financial and budget information out, so folks have time to read it and understand it, and perhaps even ask questions beforehand that we can answer for them, so that it doesn't necessarily have to come up on the town meeting floor. Certainly there always will be some back and forth there on certain things, but that's our plan, to do that and to get that information out at least 2 weeks before town meeting, so folks can look at that. It's important that they have that opportunity.
Oh, that would be great.
And you'll get it out on the website and make it available via hard copy should people want to pick it up beforehand?
Yeah, I think our primary method would be the web.
Okay.
It's certainly, we have to provide copies for the town meeting, so I mean obviously there's a resource issue there.
Right.
But certainly available through the internet, which most folks have. But
Right.
if there's a need, obviously we'll address that with folks if they need to see it in a different format. We'll do our best.
Right.
So I think this has been very informative. I guess what I'd like to ask, as you get ready to get back to work, I know you're very busy, what's your view for Ashland, say, the next 3 years or so as you ramp up your administration and take over running the town?
Well, I think, it takes a couple different perspectives. I think, sort of internally within, sort of the town government, we're going to be looking at, establishing good, strong policies and procedures and process for what we do, making sure that we collaborate with each other. Somebody mentioned me a while back, and a lot of these things you get into sort of these issues that you're dealing with, and it's really important to ask yourself, who else needs to know what you're working on. And sort of if you ask that question at the very forefront of an issue, then you avoid what often happens is somebody says, hey, I got left out. Now we're doing that internally right now with all of our departments. We're also putting a lot more emphasis on our department heads in terms of budgeting and finance. I think that's going to bring better government, and so as we present that information to the public, that shows the good government, the transparency and the visibility into what we're doing. We're looking at that. I think sort of globally, we're going to continue to work well, I think, hand in hand with our school department. That's very, very important. We have a great relationship already. We're going to look at some internal, I'll call it internal regionalization. We're doing it somewhat with our public facilities director and sharing that. We've talked just generally about potentially some IT and perhaps even some personnel related stuff. So the more we can collaborate, I think the better. It really needs, is going to be a team environment. I think that's going to be important. And then certainly for our community is looking and being part of things like the comprehensive plan, and how do we take the results of the work that's done by committees like that, and how do we help to foster and support the endeavors that other groups in town are looking to accomplish through their boards and committees, because we're there in very much of a support role to help them do that. So the town continues to grow. It's a great community. I love being here, and I think it's only just going to get better as we continue to have dialogue across our whole community.
Well, I think as a town, we're fortunate to have you, and I know I'm looking forward to working with you further, and we have a lot of great community groups and volunteers, and I think that they'll enjoy working with you as well, and it's just a positive thing for Ashland.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate you joining us here
Yes.
at Around the Clock.
Yeah,
And if
this
you
is
got
great. I hope we
any
have another
other time you
opportunity.
want to come
Sure.
back, we're
Okay.
happy to have you come on board.
Absolutely.
So this is Tony Schiavi, Town Manager. We're Around the Clock. We'll be right back. Hi, we're now here with Jeff Fournier. Jeff is the plant manager at the Ashland Water Treatment Site facility on Howe Street. Welcome to Around the Clock, Jeff.
Thank you, Mark.
We're glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
As our folks at home don't know, we went on a little tour of your facility. And why don't you tell us about the plant?
We'll start from the beginning. Raw water is pulled from 3 of your 5 groundwater wells, and it's pumped to the water treatment plant. It is then injected with what's called ozone. This is a very clean oxidizer that destroys disease-causing organisms, and it's a very strong and clean oxidizer, as I just said, that helps to oxidize manganese out of your water and iron and other unsettable solids. From that point on, it goes on to what's called clarification process, which as the water that's been oxidized, it's also hit with a flocculant, which helps to coagulate unsettable particles inside the water. And to bring this into perspective, essentially, what it's doing is taking little particles, if you can picture it, little particles that you can or cannot see, and it's adjoining it or attracting it to other particles, making a clump of matter, which is then called a settable solid, which is when it then goes to a clarifier manifold, which helps to filter these settable solids out. Any of these settable solids after the clarifier then passes onto the filter, and the filter then polishes this water to help remove these settable solids and create a high, clean water for the town of Ashland and Hopkinton.
So I remember I moved into town, I think, in 91-ish, clearly before the plant was built.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if I got some water out of the tap, it didn't really taste that great. If I filled up the tub, kind of a little yellowish tint. Does that process that you described to us, does that help that?
Back in the 1990s, your water was pumped from these wells and just injected with chemicals. It didn't go through a filtration process that really became popular 80 years ago. Keep in mind, 80 years ago, cholera and typhoid was very common diseases back in the United States. Now it's largely gone, although it's still common in other countries. Due to the fact that now you have a filtration process going on, you're able to remove these problematic issues.
And no taste of chlorine that we might be used to exists anymore.
Correct.
That's great. Now, does Ashland fluoridate? Do you say it fluoridate or add
No,
fluoride to their waters?
And in my personal opinion, I'm very glad that they don't fluoridate. It's not necessary. Fluoride can cause issues with older people.
Mm-hmm. So Jeff, I often wonder, I see the water in the reservoir, and then as that water starts to taper off in the summertime, you know, the town often gets into a stage 1 or a stage 2 water ban beyond just our normal odd even watering. Does that ever affect your wells?
The wells are affected by that, yes. Once the wells start getting down to a certain level, basically they're 30 feet high. And once we start seeing the wells dropping down to 20 feet, we have to initiate what's called the stage 1 ban. And once the wells initiate or hit, an 18-foot level, we have to initiate a stage 2 ban in order to conserve the water.
All right, so you've taken that water out of the wells, you've treated it to pull the solids out. On the back end of the facility, there's all kinds of pumps that feed the distribution center. Can you sort of talk about how that area works?
Sure, Mark. What you saw in the video, and Ashland's going to see in the video, is called high lift pumps and backwash pumps. 4 of those pumps feed Ashland, 2 of those pumps feed Hopkinton, and 2 of the other pumps are used for backwashing the filters, which takes the solids that have built up inside the filters and flushes it away.
By the time that water gets to my house, I've got clean, clear, tasty water.
That's it. That's it.
What else should your average homeowner or resident know about the water in Ashland?
That is, we are in compliance with federal regulations due to the fact that the water treatment was plant to bill in 2002 and through the series of chemical and physical processes, we are able to stay in compliance with the total coliform rule and the lead and copper rule. We have a lab that the operators do routine chemical testing, and the operators also pull samples from the distribution system and grab routine microbiological samples that are sent out to an independent lab to be tested.
Great, great. How much water does the plant process?
Per day?
Per day.
Per day, approximately about 1.5 million gallons of water.
And the capacity for that plant?
The capacity is 6 million gallons per day.
So we've got room to grow around town.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, Jeff, we really appreciate you coming down. The folks will get to see some pictures of your really beautiful plant there. And,
Thank you, Mark.
Keep up the good work. We love our water here in Ashland.
Thank you, and have a good day.
All right, thanks. Well, welcome back to the WACA-TV studio. We hope you enjoyed our segment at the Ashland Water Treatment Facility. And I'm fortunate now to have with me Graham Ruggie.
Thank you.
Graham is the Vice Chairman of the Ashland Redevelopment Authority. He's been on that authority for 4 years now. And Graham, what is the Ashland Redevelopment Authority?
I'm glad you asked, Mark. The Ashland Redevelopment Authority is a pseudo-public group. It's a board made up of 5 members, including a governor appointee. And we're tasked with looking at ways to encourage economic development in the town. And so what we really do, in essence, what that means is acting as a bridge between the public and private sectors and finding ways to encourage economic development, helping businesses when they're looking at coming into town, connecting them with groups, departments, and folks that they need to talk to get more information. Talking with potential businesses that want to come into town about, potential areas for them to relocate into our town. Really in the last, I'd say 2 years, we've been focusing our efforts on activities and events in town to try and get people excited about the downtown area, Marathon Park, and really collecting a lot of information from people so that they can feel and actually have feedback into activities and potential projects in the downtown.
Excellent. So is that an appointed position? How do you get, if you wanted to be on the ARA, how would you get on the ARA?
Well, I think like with any board or committee, you really want to start attending meetings so you have a real sense of, what that board or committee does. In this particular case, the ARA is an elected position at town meeting. So you simply are nominated, or you put in your name as a nomination, and I think you have a few minutes to introduce yourself and what you want to do, and then the group votes. And so it's a pretty simple process, but I think it's really more a matter of understanding what the group does, and then deciding if that's a group that you can add value to.
So the ARA is, in essence, an independent body in town.
Yes, it is. It doesn't report to a particular group in town government. We report to the people. We're representatives of the people. We're volunteers. We're unpaid. But we really act as a bridge. So we meet a lot with folks from the planning board, the building department, all different groups within town government.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So it sounds like you probably have your fingers in a lot of different activities around town.
We do. We try and stay focused. Right now, some of our major efforts are with Route 126 and downtown. It's really been in the works for quite a while. Ed Bates is a consultant for the ARA, began an effort to get some civil engineering done to start looking at how we can redevelop the 126 corridor. And that's culminated currently in a RFP for civil engineering for 25% engineered drawings for the corridor. And we're going to have a public forum coming up September 23rd. If you go to ashlandredevelopment.com, you'll find out the location and the time. We're actually going to have a portion of the meeting on September 23rd to talk about downtown initiatives, and then the second part of the meeting is going to talk about the 126 corridor.
And so if we could get a little preview, we
Sure.
don't steal the thunder, but on 126, what is the focus on 126?
Well, the focus really is on a few things. It's first of all on safety. I think a lot of feedback we've received is safety is a big concern in terms of pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic in and out of intersections and so forth. We're also concerned about the aesthetics, of course, but also the functioning of how is the corridor set up to encourage businesses to come to that corridor. My big mantra is, if you want businesses to invest in you as a town, the town needs to invest in itself. If you go on a date, you want to dress up and look good, right? So if you want someone to take interest in you. So that's kind of the way I look at 126. So we're really looking at it from a bunch of different standpoints. One of the things that we've done as a group is to put together an RFP for an urban design firm to work in conjunction with a civil engineering firm, so that we're looking at the commercial corridor holistically and not just from a road construction standpoint. Definitely.
Now, I know the Ashland Farmers Market that is held on Saturdays through the summer and into the early fall has drawn sort of a focus on downtown and picked up some foot traffic, et cetera. I understand that you have a project that's going to perhaps do some beautification or other types of activities downtown. Can you tell the folks at home a little bit about that?
Sure. I think one of the things we're really proud of is hosting, basically hosting for free the land as a leaseholder for the Ashland Farmers Market. We feel it's a great activity that goes downtown. I know initially the ARA had looked at a mixed-use development in that particular location, but we're really looking at short-term improvements in the downtown area. So on September 23rd at our meeting, we'll be looking at some short-term initiatives that are possible in, say, the next 12 to 18, 24 months in the downtown area. And so certainly in that area along Front Street, there's a potential to do some projects and some work down there. Again, looking at ways that the town can look to improve the infrastructure of the downtown, so that businesses would look at that area in a little different light and be more attracted to that area.
And at that meeting at the 23rd, you're hoping to get town folk to come out and give you some input of some kind?
Yeah, definitely. We have some postings in the directions and the tab. Really would love everyone to come out. It's a listening exercise. We want to open it up by telling you what we've done to date, and then hear back from folks what they want to see. We had a similar exercise at the community center. I believe it was a couple months ago when we started talking about downtown, and we had a great turnout. And so we hope to have similar type of turnout. And so we've set up a coalition of folks with representatives of different boards and committees who are basically going to take that information, the feedback from the residents, and try and move those short-term projects forward. So
that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Front Street. ARA actually owns that property?
They do. A little bit before my time, so I'm not as familiar with the details of it. But as of late, we're really focusing on the downtown area and 126. We feel that we've got some traction with that. And more importantly, we heard from the residents that kind of that's what they want us to focus on. I'm very proud of what we did last year in the half marathon, putting that together, having Marathon Park as a focus, and the Ashland Sporting Association was created and in essence spun off from that. They now run the race, and they look at promoting it and organizing it and putting together. And in my mind, as a board member, that's the perfect scenario, because we help to create a genesis for something that can live on its own and keep going because it has the support of the community, it's popular and so forth. We as a group don't necessarily need to own that. We're here again to create that bridge and create opportunities and find out what people want to do and create trying to create a better community, which is I think what everyone on boards and committees set out to do.
Well, that's great. It sounds like it's pretty well organized, and you have some good focus on those projects.
Yeah, we have a good group with Enzo Scalara as the chair, and Sarah Hines is on the board, another architect, as well as myself. Andrea Green and Ed Bates continues to volunteer and assist. So, of course, Charlotte Peterson is our anchor. She's
everywhere.
Yeah, she's everywhere. So it's a good group, and and Dave Bowden as well on the group. So it's good chemistry, and I think the residents, we have good turnout at our meetings. They're typically the first or third Tuesdays of the month. They're posted, so keep an eye out, and we'd love to see folks come out and see what's going on with our group and what we've been doing.
All right, well, there you go. Graham Ruggie, Assistant Vice Chair of the Ashland Redevelopment Authority. Please come out and support their meeting on September 23rd. That meeting's going to be at?
It's going to start at 6:30, I believe, in the high school library.
The high school library, all right. So 6:30, September 23rd in the Ashland High School Library. The Ashland Redevelopment Authority wants you to come out and give them some ideas to help make Ashland a better place to live and improve the quality of life.
Great.
Right? Thanks for coming on board.
Thanks.
Okay, Yolanda, we've had quite a bit of activity here with the town government, our new profiles, information about what's going on around town, information about yourself and your job as chair on the school committee. But we're going to have a little special guest now.
Yes, our special guest is Patty O'Neill from the national TV program The Hero, and she is Ashland's hero as well. She's lived here in Ashland for 17 years. She's 46 years old, and when she told me that, I said, "Are you sure you want me to say that?" And she said, "Yep, I definitely want people to know my age." I said, "Okay." I'm proud of her for being willing to do that. I don't know that I would, but she's been a realtor in town for 25 years. With her sister. She also works at the Richard Francis Salon here in Ashland. She's a mom, which is, I think, one of the reasons that she won The Hero. But she has 3 children here, and 2 of them are still in the Ashland schools. One is off at Westfield State. And I asked her, I said, "What's one thing, before you bring her on, that people might not know about you?" And she said that her mom is half Asian. So that was interesting to hear. And when people see her, they'll see why that's interesting.
That's so funny.
Well, welcome, Patty.
Thank you very much. It is absolutely a pleasure to be here with both of you. Thank you, too, also, for this unbelievable honor.
Well, we are very happy to have you be America's hero. You brought sort of a bright, exciting moment to Ashland, helped us get through the summer of discontent. But tell us a little bit about the show. That's what everybody wants to know.
Everybody always wants to know about Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and I have to say, he is the real deal, a true hero, unbelievably inspirational, and he is the reason why I think I got through the entire series. I know I cried a little bit, but that's just to be expected with the challenges that were thrown at me. And he's amazing. He's unbelievable, and being in his arms was definitely the highlight of being on the show The Hero.
I can see how that would be, a nice highlight of the show.
How about you, Mark?
I think I would enjoy that myself.
Love it.
What was the toughest challenge that you feel you had to do?
Every challenge for me was tough. I think that was apparent on the show. But actually not being able to tap into my support system at home, not being able to speak to Bob or the kids, was debilitating at times for me. So that was really the hardest part of this entire process, not being able to talk to my family while filming in Panama.
And how long were you in Panama?
The show ran for seven weeks, so we were away for a good amount of time, and I was able to talk to Bobby when I landed, but then they quickly collected our phones and wasn't able to talk to him again until the day before I was leaving.
How has it been to adjust back to Ashland after? Walking
Ashland nights are
tightropes and tear
fantastic.
gas and-
Ashland nights, every time I'm running now, I get beeps. I get people yelling out, "Hey, hero," as I'm running, and it's just been out of this world awesome.
Well, that's terrific, but I hear that you may be training for the Boston Marathon.
I am Boston strong all the way. So I have been training for the marathon. I have my name in for a number here with the town of Ashland, and I'm hoping that will be the next dream that comes true for 2014. I would be so proud to run in the historic Boston Marathon, especially representing Ashland.
Right, and when you say a number from Ashland, Ashland is a town because we have the marathon run through us.
Right.
We give numbers to runners that put their name in, and then that money that gets raised comes back to the town that we then give out as donations and support many of the programs that are going on.
I would love to run for Ashland, so thank you.
Well,
Love it.
we'll be doing a live shot at that gig, so we'll
That's
make
right.
sure that we look for
I
you on
would
the
love
road.
it. We've had a lot of children stopping into the Richard Francis Salon for photos with me. Richard's been amazing letting that happen, and that's been just an absolute honor. It's been fantastic, not a negative.
So what's next for the hero?
Oh, the hero wants to be dancing on the stars or any type of television would be fantastic. That's really the dream. I've loved every second of it. I've been very appreciative of all the emails I receive, about 20 a day from fans through Facebook. Most of them moms over 40 trying to find themselves. So I really think that that's something I want to help with and target in on in my future goals, is to be able to remind everybody at any age, 40, 50, 60, we're still here to dream. We are not too old to give up our dreams. And you go for it, and it'll happen.
And is there a way for them to contact you or follow you?
Definitely. I would love it if they wanted to follow me on Twitter. So that's Patty O'Neill _. Also, you can type in Hero Patty. That usually brings people right to my Twitter site, or on Facebook. There is a public page called Patty O'Neill, and that would be fantastic as well. So if they'd like to see me on Dancing with the Stars, if we want to see another Ashland mom or an Ashland mom out there,
Yeah,
I just need your support. And next season, I'll be Derek Huff's partner, maybe.
Derek Huff, wow.
That'd be fun.
That would be fantastic.
All right, well, we're here with Patty O'Neill, America's Hero, and our special guest segment of Around the Clock. Tune in again. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone. It was very exciting to have Patty O'Neill, America's Hero, here today. And with me now, I have two local unsung heroes, Joe Magnani and Bill Gass. Joe and Bill, I hear your big event's coming up.
But yeah, Ashland Day 13. It's this Saturday, coming Saturday, September 21st. The hours are from 9 to 4, with the opening ceremonies starting at 9 o'clock. We have a bike parade registration and for the little kids, and which is always fun. 10 o'clock we have the flag raising ceremony, and everything is right near the gazebo and the flagpole right down at Stone Park. And the Ashland High School Chorus will be doing the national anthem. They'll be singing God Bless America, and we'll be having a tribute to the Boston Marathon victims as well as 9/11. We have the Ashland Day auction. Bill, if you want to talk about that real quick.
The auction is the night before, and everything we do there raises money to support the things that we do on Ashland Day, because the tickets we sell don't cover the cost of the rides. And we've got a lot of nice items. We have a website you can look at now, www.ashlandday.com. You'll see a lot of information on there. Even some of the items we have for the auction, we update that frequently.
Food vendors this year. We have a lot of new food vendors from the town that are willing and anxious to show their wares at Ashland Day this year. And we just ask you to come down and support.
So remember, folks, Friday night on September 20th, the Ashland Day auction at the American Legion on Summer Street. That starts at 6.
The auction starts at 6, check-ins at 5, buffet's ready at 5.
And then Ashland Day, Saturday, September 21st, Stone Park. We hope to see you all there. Well, everyone, that ends our first episode of Around the Clock. I'd like to thank my guest host, Yolanda Greaves, the chairperson of the Ashland Board of Selectmen, for joining us today. We hope Yolanda will come back soon. And last but not least, we want to dedicate this show to Ellen Wales. Ellen G. and Betty Wales of Ashland passed away on August 13th at the Metro West Medical Center in Framingham. Ellen is survived by her husband of 45 years, Warren Wales, and their 2 children, Kimberly Wales and Brian Wales, all of Ashland. Ellen lived in Ashland for over 60 years. She graduated from Ashland High School in 1961, and she worked for the town of Ashland for over 10 years, and most recently served as the treasurer of our own Ashland Cable Access Corporation. Ellen loved reading mystery novels and crocheting Afghans, and mostly loved helping out here at the Ashland Cable Station. We know she would have loved this show and hope that you enjoy it. Our blessings go out to her family. See you next time.